Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is the final game of the 2025 FIDE World Cup played today, November 26th. On the white end, Wei Yi playing against Javokhir Sindarov. Alright, this is game 2 of 2 from tiebreak 1. Their first tiebreak game was drawn. Time controls 15 minutes each with a 10-second increment. We have an Italian game, 2 knights defense. This early phase, non-confrontational, each making healthy moves in this opening phase. Fairly lengthy game, 60 mover. We have a pin, which is immediately resolved in this one. This is the good bishop being exchanged for the knight. Consistent follow-up now. Knight hops in the center. White has no better than to go back home to cover c2. Another consistent follow-up. Now that the knight is in the center, the c-pawn can play a role. Black now supports this central advance. White gets out of the way of d5 with tempo, plays bishop a2 here. I was a little curious about f4 in this position. A strong response is to play d5 here, and after these captures, hop to this newly weakened diagonal. It's calling for bishop e3 and queen d6 here, covering the bishop, covering the pawn. I came across a funny checkmate line. If white is capturing here and allowing this double check, you have to play to h1 here and allow knight g3 check, followed by knight captures rook check. You're down the exchange there. Here's the thing, after king h2, it's a mate in 2 with knight g4. If the knight falls, queen h4 is mate. And if king h1, how's that for a minor piece checkmate? Okay. How it's playing out in this one, white gets out of the way of d5 with tempo. Bishop a2 it is. Knight e6. Fighting against this f4 break. Rook e1, queen c7, bishop e3, and before this rook leaves defense of this pawn, we have b6. Black stays strong on the dark squares. This is not the only approach to this pressure on the pawn. You could also play it with a5 and then look forward to moving the rook elsewhere. All right, in this one we have b6, queen f3, rook a d8, h4. Okay, certainly an interesting move, committal move. Its idea revealed right away. Black responds queen d7 and then queen h3 is played. White converges on this knight. Now, you do have to weigh that move carefully. A top response here, one of the top responses is h5. And that g4 square, nice pivot for a knight. Not how black plays it. It's queen d7, queen h3, other rook in the center, bishop for knight exchange, queens stay on board. Knight e2, and from here we see this central push. This is not a good moment to insert a flight square. If you're going with h6 here, the white queen is more active than the black queen, already posted on the king side. The black queen sectioned off to the queen side. g4 would be an excellent response. It likes this position for white. Reading about +1, g5 break can be very disruptive. Pawn on h4 supporting that. Okay, not a good time to flick in a flight square. We have the central push. Follow-up is knight g3. In the case of a capture, there's really not a great reason to undouble the pawns and welcome the queen exchange, extend the scope of the rook in the process. So white holds on to e4, knight g3, rook f8, and from here h5 is played. If we revisit this capture, computer says a tick better is to take towards the center in this case. A reason to maybe not undouble the pawns. In this case, the knight and queen are converging on f5. Okay, may want to keep the pawn around controlling that. White still hangs on to the e4 pawn in this one. We have h5. As black, you don't want to see h6, so h6 yourself. Note the difference here. White pawn on h5, black pawn on h6. There isn't a concern of some quick g4 break, or excuse me, g4 with g5 break. G4 at some point from here with the pawn on h5 instead of h4 would just be a terrible move, really. In response to any g4 move, knight h7 is looking excellent. Wonderful pivot there on g5. White is not going to be getting in any g5 break. Okay, how it's playing out here, we have rook e2, rook f7, rook's doubled, bishop d6, and bishop d2. Now, nearby, what must be weighed carefully is this f4 break. The follow-up, black doubles on the f-file, and white now targets e5. Bishop c3 is played here. If f4 is played, it's not good, and here's a reason why. The black can take on f4. Yes, there is this fork, but there's a way out of it. There's a check on c5. Then you could take the knight. You're trading knights at the end, and this is a very dangerous pawn. Already threatening mate. And if you collect the pawn, that's going to sting. Okay, my point, going for f4 is bad. We have here bishop c3, d4. All right, white is ready for a timely capture and then is crashing through on e5. So d4 kicks the bishop back, follow up c5, attack and defense of a4, and now a6, preparing for queenside expansion, b5, c4, follow up from here, knight f1. Now if we revisit f4, things are a little different. f4 takes e5 with the fork. There is no bishop c5. Let's see why this is still not a good idea. After f4 takes e5, pawn takes knight, pawn takes bishop. In the end, this pawn falls. This one here remains very dangerous. Prefers black here. Valuation about minus 0.8. Okay, the f4 break still not working out for white. We have knight f1, queen e8. Pop quiz, is f4 one of the top moves here? Pause the video if you'd like. Okay, it is not. In the game Rook a1 is played. This is considered one of the top moves, preparing to meet the b5 break. The rook will be activated. Why is f4 not a top move? Well, you're not going to take on f4. It's true you're no longer on the knight. If you do take like this, you are dead. That is a successful fork for white. White is winning. But a good response to f4 would be to play knight d7 and now ask white, what are you doing about this pawn? There are 4 attackers, only 1 defender. And if you're capturing here, you're really just helping black out in the end. This is a very strong bishop. Rook's ideally placed. These rooks not looking so bright. Now, there is some fancy pawn sacrifice line that is worth mentioning here. You may go in for such a line with this idea of f5. Yes, you're giving up a pawn, but now there is a very nice square for a knight. Do have some form of positional compensation. Okay, computer does not see f4 as one of the top moves. What we have here, rook a1, rook e7, Knight g3, queen c8, knight back to f1. I believe white is maybe hinting at, okay, you want to draw here? You want to repeat moves? Black says no. Continues with b5. Position remains about equal here, but black goes for it with b5. Now, this queen post, it does a couple things. One, after the b5 break, if white is opening up the a file, there isn't a wonderful entry point on the 6th rank. And the queen is also in a spot to support an ensuing c4 break. The clock situation after knight f1, already players in sort of time pressure do have that 10-second increment. White has about 2 minutes remaining. Black, about 4. Goes for it. Plays b5. Knight h2. c4. A file opens up. B file opens up. Knight g4. Met with c3. Pop quiz. How would you respond here? Pause the video if you'd like. Okay, the position remains about equal. White continues here with knight captures, knight check. Now, I should note this last move, c3. It's not just about targeting the bishop. Black is fixing this c2 pawn. This is a point black will look to target from here. And if it goes, you can be sure this c pawn by black will try to go just 2 steps out from promotion. I want to note that neither sacrifice on h6 is working here. It may be tempting to play in this way. Let me touch on each and show why it's not good. Bishop captures pawn, you can recapture. Knight captures pawn, step up, and there isn't a good follow-up. No consistent follow-up here. You're on the knight, trying to get into this square here. Queen g3, there's rook g7. You're going to be winning the knight next. Also, in the case of knight captures h6, best is not to take the knight. It says just move the king. And you're still going to be winning a piece. Keep this pawn around as some shelter for the king. So if the knight moves in this position, you could now simply collect that bishop, no problems there. Also, if let's say the queen goes here, it says best yet again, just take the bishop. Queen check, king here. There isn't a consistent follow-up for white. Okay, my point, neither minor piece sacrifice is working on h6 here. We have a knight exchange. Rook recapturing. Bishop e1. Rook f7. f3. White is working with the better bishop. Very nice structure here. Ties in well with this piece. Nice diagonal has now opened up for it. The only downside really for white is this c2 pawn. See how white handles the eventual pressure on this point. We have rook a7. Another clock update. Let's move 37. 1 minute for white, about 3 for black. All rooks stay on here. Rook a2. Bishop h4. Rook b7. Queen g4. This is a very nice queen. More active queen. Pressure on a pawn. Pinned pawn. Pivot on g6. Watching over that g6 square. King h2. Queen f7. g3. This f4 break is nearby. Really the only pawn break in the position. Follow up rook b7 to b2. Rook c1. King h7. King g2. Ideal color for the king with this guy around. We have now rook b8. Rook f1. Rook b7. Final clock update. A bullet finish to this World Cup. Both players are under 1 minute and basically living off of the increment. f4 break. Really difficult to adjust to these new structures and these time pressure situations. We have pawn takes pawn e5. Pop quiz, what is your move here? Pause the video if you'd like. All right, in the game, the human move, bishop goes to c5. The top move, it says to take on e5. This line that I'm highlighting here is way too deep to be calculating with so little time. The idea, you give up the piece, and you're getting to the second rank here. It's kind of an interesting continuation with queen takes e6, queen exchange. It's saying insert the check and then fly with that dangerous passed c-pawn bishop out of position to try and reel it in. Runs a little further. There's a cute tactic in this position after rook b1. There's rook captures pawn. All these rooks disconnected, and black would be in an only move situation to keep this as a draw. And it's not to take either rook. It's to take this bishop with check, and then the rook. Drawn rook and pawn ending. Okay, way too deep a line to be calculating with just under a minute on your clock here to take the pawn. We have the human move, bishop c5. White is for choice here. This is a very good piece. Rook on f4. This is a very good pivot that black must constantly watch over, and does. Queen drops back to e8. Follow up. White rook's doubled. Maybe a top piece in the position is this rook on f2. Defense and attack. Really well positioned piece here for white. Follow up. Rook a1. Queen f3. Black doubles. And from here, we have queen e4 check. King g8. Pop quiz, what is your move in this position? Pause the video if you'd like. Okay, in the game, g4 is played. That covers h5. At the top, it says queen g6. This would be a very strong move. After a queen exchange, this is a very dangerous pawn. This pawn staying around on g3, if there's any checks like this, it says the king is nice and cozy here on g4. Nice shelter with g3, bishop on h4 there. Prefers white here. I mean, there is this very dangerous idea to double up on the 7th rank. Okay, we do not see this. We don't see queen g6. It's g4. Rook h1. King g3. Rook a to e1. We have a pair of rooks off. Bishop e7. Bishop exchange. Final pop quiz. Now, I want you to try to put yourself in Wei Yi's shoes here. He has 20 seconds on the clock and is in an only move situation. So feel free to give yourself just 20 seconds or less and see if you could come up with the only move here. Pause the video if you'd like. Okay, in the game, rook captures pawn is played and black is winning. Nearby, there's queen h4 check. The only move to keep this as a draw is king g2. The idea, if the queen now enters, there is a rook sacrifice that leads to a draw. Rook f8 with this follow-up, queen f3 check, and there's a perpetual nearby, the queen pivoting on these squares, questioning the king one way or another. So let me show you what this looks like. Check here, another check. Note in the case of the queen blocking, you cannot go into a king and pawn ending. That would be winning for black. What you do have is a check on f3. You keep the queens on and then regain the material. If you go into the king and pawn ending like this, this is where you see the value of that c3 pawn being established many moons ago. Black is winning this by just a tempo. Very neat ending here. The king steps on b5, looking for a quick track of the C pawn. And after the king tries to tackle the D pawn, the king steps over. The king has to move away from D4. And black is there just in time. Black will be winning this race by a tempo. Anyhow, any of you come up with this only move for white, king G2, in 20 seconds or less? Okay, in the game we have rook captures pawn, queen H4 check, king F4, rook E1. Perfect move. You're on the queen. You're also covering any queen E4 ideas. Might want to play queen E4 one day, questioning a king post on H7. Forget about it. It's covered. White plays queen G2 here. If there's a check included, you don't take the rook. Queen takes rook, queen takes rook. You could respond with king H7 here, and then say, what do you got? Queen is hit, rook is still hit. The queen cannot move and maintain pressure on the rook, which means after she leaves, now you take the rook. Okay, how it's playing out here, no check. We have queen G2, queen G5 check, only 2 legal moves. King F3, queen E3 is mate. In the game, king G3, queen E3 still, that's move 60, final move. White resigns. You're going to lose the rook next. This was a very nice performance by Javokhir Sindarov in this FIDE World Cup. At 19 years old, he is the youngest ever to win the FIDE World Cup, besting Levon Aronian. He did it at the age of 23 in 2005. Wonderful performance by Sindarov. He also walked away with a cool $120,000 prize on top of qualifying for the candidates. Anyhow, your thoughts with this one. Feel free as usual to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.